Okay, cello.
No better feeling than your warm hands. You're the only name I call out when it's hard. 'Cause baby, only you know who I am.
Her voice got a lot richer with age.
I promise that I'll be your only friend.
Her vowels are also different.
I know that the demons come knocking, but we'll never ever let them in. Don't let the world ruin it, 'cause you got one chance. In your hands, the world is yours when I'm in it. In your hands, you can't let go. You lose
Okay,
your
Halle.
chance, 'cause after me, you'll never fall in love again. La, la, 'cause after me, you'll never fall in love again. La, I'm a bandage for you when you're bleeding out. Like the trees, I supply your oxygen. Whenever your thoughts, they try to down. Baby, just remember who I am. Don't let the world ruin it, 'cause you got one chance. Hands, the world is yours when I'm in it. In your hands, you can't let go. You lose your chance, 'cause after me, you'll never fall in love again. La, 'cause after me, you'll never fall in love again.
It's really interesting choices going on. It's very different. I'm not used to this from her at all.
'Cause after me, you'll never fall in love again.
This is radically different from anything I've heard from her. I am used to hearing her in the context of being paired with her sister or going for that kind of that Disney sound, because you know that happened. I have actually a kind of a ton of videos on the channel that go over this, but listen to the sound of Halle when she's blending with Chloe. And you can even see it in the vowels and the shape of the mouth, where Chloe's got that pursed and Halle's got that kind of that brighter. You'll see this in the Verizon performance as well. You're gonna hear it here as well. Even with the pursed lip, tipsy, the larynx is still higher and the tongue is a lot more forward. The vowel is a lot brighter. Some of this is age, not all of it though. Halle's a really good technician, and so it's worth noting that some of these choices to make these vowels a lot darker, and sometimes even the tongue just goes back deliberately, that's not ergonomic. It's an artistic decision, but it is not efficient singing. And there are some instances where she kind of has to push a little bit to not go flat. That's just a beautiful belt there, but... So that's really bright, but then we go into the intro. It's funny, you can actually just kind of parse through and see the kind of the pursed lips. So the nasality, there's a tension there. That was almost just a hair flat, just by a cent, which is like 1/100th of a pitch. Again, on purpose. I can't imagine otherwise. This is such a radical change in tone, and later in the performance, she just goes bright. It's super shocking and like really interesting to me. So we're gonna have to view this from a couple angles. This is the larynx here, and this is the epiglottis. This is your tongue. The tongue is a massive, chonky muscle. Watch what happens when it moves. This is from a channel called Singing in the MRI. So that's what he calls the light mix, where the tongue is not so far back. Now, he does say that the opera is tongue forward or tongue down and back. That is absolutely not the case at all, but check this out. Look at how much compression there is on the larynx. It's terribly inefficient. So in terms of tone difference, now this is really heavily compressed audio, so I'm going to try to fix that. We're going to see how this works. This is going to be with the tongue forward. Die Wildnis ist bei Zauberschein. Now this is going to be with the tongue back. Die Wildnis ist bei Zauberschein. One is definitely easier, whereas the other is kind of gross, in my opinion, sounding. And that tends to get exhausting, because you're making everything work harder when you do that with the tongue down the back, which is why I specifically picked Mozart, because if you do that with Mozart, bye-bye, and you're gone. You might get through like half of the aria. Of that one specifically, you probably get through like a third, if you're lucky. That one's a ball buster, that aria. But on the first one, I was still able to modify the vowel, which is what she's also doing. Des Wildnis ist bei Zauberschein. Des Wildnis ist bei Zauberschein. This is a concept known as covering in opera, and it's very specifically used for tenors, for very specific musical aesthetic, which I will get to at the end of the video, because I think it's neat, and maybe you don't care, but I think it's cool. What I think matters, the way that Halle's using it very specifically here, is to accomplish a very similar effect. He's basically covering to give this dramatic flair to it. She's not bringing her tongue back here, and that's really important. Baby, only you know who I am. And then at the am, she does bring the larynx down a little bit. You know who I am. It gives us that luscious sound, and she's also retracting the false folds. So Halle is playing with tone in some really dramatic ways, and it's really cool to watch. Let's talk about the false folds, because that's another thing that she was doing when she was with her sister. She had more neutral false folds. What are the false folds? Let's take a look. These right around the vocal folds. So these are the vocal folds right here, and these are the false folds. Let's get a better view here. If you look at the whole mechanism here, you kind of see that they're quite large. They're much larger than the vocal folds themselves, and they impose their will on the vocal folds quite dramatically. Even if I just speak to you, if I talk in my normal kind of speech-like sound, and I'm just at a register, bringing people, like ringing them up or whatever, I'm just talking. This is very speech-like. And when she would sing with her sister, and often when she would do the Disney stuff, this is where her false folds were. But if you really open them up and relax them, you get a much more rich sound. And again, this is a range of motion. Let's take a look at actually what happens here throughout the entirety of this little scoping video. Super cool. And clearly, I would know what cool is. Right? That's a massive range of motion with the false folds. So you get a massive range of tone quality. So between the tongue, between the false fold contractions, and all these other things that she's doing, mic technique, the belting, and the jaw forward, and the mouth shape, all that stuff, she's adjusting it to get a much different tone than she would when she was singing with her sister. And she's experimenting with quite a lot. This is a very different Halle Bailey. It's actually really cool. Also, I'm now learning that Halle be a mama. So that's a big one. That's a really big one. That will change your voice tremendously.